So I was involved in the Boy Scout movement in Switzerland and was a leader and organized many summer camps. And I had the opportunity to meet a couple of Jesuits as chaplains. And so I got acquainted with the Society of Jesus, and I entered the novitiate, and I did the education in philosophy and education, regency and theology. And during that time, I made a trip to India with two American friends of mine by car. And so we traveled about 100 days from France through the Middle East, through Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan and back around India and back. And that was for me a big eye-opener for the world, to the world. I was very interested in Europe, thinking about what happened during the First and Second World War. And we wanted to build up a new Europe, but I did not know that India and Asia and the third world countries are so important. So I came back and I told them I need to study economics. And so I did economics, a Ph.D., and then I left. During those studies, I left the Society of Jesus, but I still was working with them in a retreat house and on social issues. And so when I finished my PhD in economics, and that was on income distribution in Switzerland, a topic in the 1970s and today again, I was asked by the president of the University of St. Gallen, my home city, to come back to the home city. I wanted to avoid it, but he asked me to come back and to set up a Center for Business Ethics. And so I was really very happy to do that at the right moment in my life. And I could try to bring together my studies in philosophy and theology on the one hand and economics on the other hand. Well, my focus on research, I always talk, we have to walk on two legs. Given also a little bit my background, my educational background, but also when I could see what Henk and what many others did, that means to has a certain competence in business on the one hand, and or marketing or management or economics on the one hand, and in philosophy or theology. And so I tried always to walk on those two legs, to take both sides into account. And I call my approach as a problem and action-oriented approach to business ethics. And I learned a lot in my study on poverty in Switzerland, because just to talk from a point of view of ethical principles that poverty is bad does not reach the people. So that's why I needed numbers, I needed clear definitions, I needed what is wrong now. And so social sciences for that analysis was very important. And I spent a lot of time to ask how to identify the problem in business ethics in terms of ethics and in terms of social sciences. And then how to analyze it. And third, action-oriented, what kind of specific contributions can we make given our analysis, how we identify the problem. And then I used this framework for my students. They had to write research papers with those 3 steps. I have hundreds of papers. I cannot read all of them anymore, but I think they learned something, how to identify the problem, how to analyze, understand the problem, and third, what should we recommend to solve the problem. And I also know that young people, emerging scholars, are very interested in interdisciplinary approaches and also international. They are pretty international. I think the need for interdisciplinary work among scholars on business ethics and also with practitioners will remain an important thing. And I'm happy about that. I'm not sure if we get enough support from the economists on the one hand and from philosophers on the other hand. I mean, when the Society for Business Ethics was started, we had famous philosophers, like Richard D. George and you and Tom Donaldson. And so it is important that the philosophical leg of business ethics gets stronger, not reduced by just behavioral business ethics. I think, I'm happy that what has happened to see many things in the last 30 years or 40 years since '82. And I think one thing is that a huge group of friends who do business ethics in the Society for Business Ethics and even in the International Society for Business Ethics, and that we want really to address important issues. And I think we could do a number of things. But I'm also concerned that many friends of mine do not have the support by the business schools. And I think that's very important to build up the field. A second thing is what has been for me always, maybe by nature, that I'm interested in international issues. And I think we cannot do business ethics without looking at the international, at the global context. And that is fascinating. It is to understand what's going on in China, in terms of economic reform or in terms of now building up a Chinese business ethics network, and what is the role of human rights in China and in business. These are fascinating things. But we face also a number of challenges, and I don't feel very competent in that regard. And one is artificial intelligence. And how to deal with the digitalization of the economy. I think here we face very serious issues and need really cooperation to address that with the help of practitioners and philosophers and social scientists. Another thing, of course, is global warming. And I had a recent talk with some friends of mine. I think we were very early on. And Pat Murphy, for instance, my friend at Notre Dame, did his Ph.D. on environmental issues in the 1980s. So, but today it's still very important. And we know how urgent global warming is today. Another important perspective, which I would like to help also after my retirement, help to develop, is to help people in Africa. Africa is a continent which has the youngest population in the world. And I have some friends in Eastern Africa, and I think they need our help. And so I hope that with the Society for Business Ethics and with friends in Europe, and maybe even in China, we can do something, provide some help in that regard. I think there are 2 points. One is in terms of spirituality. And as I said, my training, my education was in Ignatian spirituality. And that is very practice-oriented with a strong theoretical foundation. And so I think spirituality in business ethics is an important issue. It has become important in the last 5-7 years, and I think we should do more. And that does not mean just Christian or Buddhist spirituality, but it can be any spirituality. But it is understanding of a broader meaning of an ultimate reality which shapes our behavior and so on. And the second thing, shortly after I arrived in Notre Dame in 1992, in Chicago, in the Palmer House, there was that Congress of the World's Religion, the Parliament of World's Religions. And it was 1993. And Hans Küng proposed the world ethos with those 4 directives, new directives, which means a culture of non-violence, not killing, a culture of honesty, not stealing, a culture of partnership in genders, not to commit sexual immorality was called, And so those four directives. And I think when talking about business ethics in the global context, we need to include global world religions. World religions play an enormous role in the global world, in the global economy and politics. And from a European background perspective, I think we are extremely cautious to address religious issues. We don't want to sound pious, devout to be. But when we look at the global context, religions play a role if we like it or not. And so Islam, how to understand Islam, I was in Iran. I had a scholar, a mufti, who had also a Ph.D. in economics. What does it mean, business ethics in Islamic banking, etc.? So lots of important questions. Well, I think we can learn a lot from the history of business ethics, and we have some publications about ISWI, the history of the International Society of Business, Economics and Ethics, and I think we it's not just to look back, of course, but to see what are really important things, and we can say a couple of important things are very clear today, So, for instance, ethics has to be integrated in business education from the first year on, with freestanding courses on the one hand and integrated courses on the other hand.